guys, what's going on? It's RC Knockout and I am back with another video. Now, if you're new to the channel, my name is Nolan. In today's video, I have got another upgrade for the cheapest Traxxas Slash project. So what is the upgrade that I have for it today? Boom. This is part number 5830, and if you're wondering what this is the low center of gravity conversion kit for the two-wheel drive Traxxas Slash. It is a Traxxas upgrade part. It is basically to lower the chassis. It brings it down over an inch or 2 inches, something like that. Because if you've been watching this build on this car and been following this whole series, you'll know the issues I've been having with not being able to get the power to the ground, number one, as well as having issues with the thing tipping. And because this chassis sits up so high, there's a ton of ground clearance. This belly sits up super high. But because all that weight is up high, the body wants to dip and sway whenever you go into corners or turns. And the problem is whenever you're turning, it dumps that power to the inside wheel. So if you're turning to the left, let's say, the body's going to roll right, and then it dumps all that power to that inner left wheel. So the opposite's true if you go right. So let's say you're turning to the right sharp, or not even really sharp. The body's going to dip to the left, and it's then going to dump all the power to the inner right wheel, because if you don't know open differentials, it basically will send the power to the path of least resistance, which is going to be the wheel that doesn't have any weight on it. So as soon as this goes that way, and the body sways, it then dumps the power to the wheel that doesn't have any weight on it, because all the weight is headed the opposite to the opposite wheel. And this thing, by the way, does have an issue with rolling. It is very, very high, but more of the issue that I was having was just not being able to get the power to the ground. So I got thinking, maybe the low center of gravity kit will help get more of that power to the ground, because if that weight is sitting down lower in the chassis, more in between the rear wheels, because the majority of the weight of this chassis is coming from where the battery is. You got your servo up here, but a lot of it's coming from where the motor and the gearbox sits back here. And even though that is already low, if you have the rest of everything low, then it kind of puts all that weight in between the wheels. So when it does want to shift, that weight's not up high, making the body go left and right and get so tippy like this. So hopefully it'll keep the body staying more flat, which then will equate to being able to get more of that power to the ground, because it'll have even amount of weight on both wheels. So that's the goal, and that's the reason why I went with this. So let me get this out, and I am going to install it for you guys. Alright guys, now check out everything that came in the packet. Right here is the chassis. This is the main chassis right here. This is what we're going to be replacing. It sits significantly lower than the chassis we currently have. We have this part, which I think is a part of the front bulkhead, I believe. Not sure what this is. I don't know if that's rubber or plastic. We got these side bits. I think these side bits go on the side of... They go on the sides of the chassis like that. We have got a new battery strap or tie down. Got some miscellaneous screws and some foam pieces. Looks like we have a different set of springs that come with it. And then, of course, we have the directions. So, let me open these directions up and see what we have to do to actually convert this. So, here's the directions right here, guys. I'm not going to really go into detail. It's not really a step-by-step. It's just kind of a diagram showing everything that needs to be changed over. It also looks like the servo, we're going to have to go into the radio settings after we convert it, because the servo goes from being in an upright position to then laying down, and I guess it reverses, it changes the direction of the servo. So you have to go into your radio and actually change and reverse the steering to the opposite direction to have the steering in the correct position again. So let's jump right into it. I think we'll start up here. We'll just start, I'll take these screws right here out, and it looks like those are 2 millimeters. My 2 mil right there. And I am going to take these screws right here out. Alright guys, got those 2 screws out. Looks like we have got 3 screws up here. I'm assuming those need to come out, and those are 2 millimeter as well. And that third one is actually a 2.5 millimeter, guys. So the 2 right here and here, those are 2 mil, but this one right here in the middle, that's a 2.5 millimeter. Okay, now we got that loose. Another thing I'm going to do real quick that I can see that needs to be done is I'm going to disconnect the steering link, which that's a 2 millimeter, and I can get down to that right here. So now we got that disconnected. These two right here, these are 2.5 mil. I'm going to disconnect those. All right, so now this right here is disconnected. There are two up under here, right here and here. We have got two 2mm that need to be removed. All right. We are still going to have to remove these four, 1, 2, 3, 4 here, and those are 2.5. Okay, and as you guys can see, the whole front bumper assembly comes off like such. These two right up here and here, and those are 2.5mm it looks like. See, that's what I thought, guys. I thought that this was a separate piece right here, but I wasn't sure. Now we have the front disassembled, and I think what we should do right now is I should actually start assembling the new chassis, just because we're going to have a lot of screws sitting around, and so I don't get too confused. I think the best course of action right now is to start swapping this front bulkhead over onto this new chassis. Alright, so it does look like we're going to have to undo these right here and here, because I think this is then where this goes on that, I think. Yep, looks like this is the area where the bell crank then goes. So let me disconnect that. Those look to be 2.5 mil. And we got two. And we got a little washer. So there's a washer on both sides. And then this right here will pull off of there. And looks like it left some bearings behind. We obviously are going to need those. It looks like there's some shims underneath that rest on here. Let me look to see if we're going to need that for the new... Yep, it looks like we are probably going to want to put the shims on as well. That looks to be what that is right there. These right here and here, it looks like those are the shims that go up underneath of the bell crank, the steering assembly. So it looks like there are 4 total shims that sit underneath. So these 4 shims right here, and I would assume that we just need to then plop them down on these posts right here. So I'm going to put 2 down on each side. Alright guys, and I have got both the shims on now. Alright guys, and as you guys can see, I have got the steering bell crank installed. There's a screw that goes here and here, and I believe it was these two right here. They're little 2 mil. So these 3 right here that then connect this bottom, I don't know, I guess this would be the bottom portion of the front bulkhead. Just get the 3 threaded in and at least get them started. So this one right here, these 2 right here that came off of the original chassis, it does not look like that's the ones that go on here, because I looked at this and it looks like right here, part 2587, which is a 3x10. So it's 2 3x10s that then hold the steering bell crank on. So we got to dig into this packet right here and find those screws. And I think it's these 2 right here. And I'm still going to use these little washers right here. So put the washers on. Washers, shims, I don't know what these actually are. Alright, just to make sure that our steering is free. Now let's see what is next, guys. Down here, we have 4. I believe it's these 4x12 or 4x14, whatever these are. Now don't forget, guys, whenever you're using a drill, do not screw them all the way down, because you don't want to strip out those threads. And these are 2.5, by the way. Right, guys, so we have all 4 of those on tight. So the front bulkhead looks like it's pretty well back together for the most part. What I will have to do is go back to the original chassis right here. And I'm going to need to get, I think what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to get the receiver box opened up first off. So I'm going to get this receiver box opened up, and then I am going to disconnect our servo and install our servo. So these are 2mm that hold the receiver box lid on. We have the receiver box lid off, and I'm hoping you guys can see this. Can you see that? Have the receiver lid off. I am going to disconnect the servo, and let me figure out which one the servo is. Looks like the servo is this one right here. Gonna disconnect this one, which is in channel 1. And then this is actually taped up underneath of here, but I'm gonna undo the 4 screws that actually hold the servo on. So now this right here, I will also need to take the, looks like I'm gonna have to just disconnect the servo horn. I'm gonna get it centered up. I'm just gonna try to put it like that so then I actually remember where it goes. That for the most part it is centered. So we have a 2mm holding the servo horn on. I've always thought this is a really weird looking servo horn. It's round, I don't get it. But there must be some reason behind it. And that comes off like such. And now our servo is free. But we do still have this tape that goes up underneath of here. Let me remove our battery box lid or strap. And I still need to get the 2mm off of the other portion of the receiver box. There we go. Then through here. And there we go, guys. And now the servo is free. Alright, guys, and now that I have got the servo off, there's 2 different options for screw holes. It's going to have to go to the top screw holes, it looks like. Alright, it looks like the servo right here, the servo horn or whatever, that's going to face basically upwards. Something like this. That looks about straight up like that. So let me get the servo horn tightened back on. We're going to have to turn this a little bit. This right here, we're going to have to turn this turnbuckle, I guess, inward. And I'm actually probably going to want to turn it and just get it as close to straight as possible. So it needs to point downward. That's pretty darn close to straight, guys. If I tighten it down just like that, it looks like the wheels are pretty darn close to straight. And I'm going to put the tiniest dab of thread lock on that just because that is going into metal. Because of our aftermarket upgraded servo or steering bell crank. Actually shows how much you're supposed to shorten it right here, guys. Shorten the servo link as shown, so down to 0.67. Looks like that's more like an inch to me. So the steering's straight, so I'm not going to go by their specs, because their specs, if I were to shorten it all the way down to 0.67, that would look, for the servo link, I think that would be way too short, and that would get the steering off big time. Now let's see what is next. I think now, we can probably connect this front portion, I would think, to this new front portion of the new low center of gravity chassis. That's starting to come together, guys. Looks like right here, guys, I don't know if you can see this right here, this little piece, this is where the servo wire is going to come through. So let me feed that up through there. Can you guys see? There we go. We're going to feed the servo wire up. And then what we are going to do is I am going to get these front ones right here tightened back down, and looks like one of them is a 2.5 and is making new threads, so that one is tight. It looks like we have these 2 right here that I may as well put on as well. These are 2mm. Those go right here and here. Alright, and those ones are all tight. Let me see what came with the kit. I think it's going to be these 2 right here, guys. There's these 2 longer ones that came with it. I think these are going to be the 2 that go right here and here. Alright, got that one tightened. Looks like we have one that's going to go right here. Let me see on the directions what size that is. I think it's just another one of these. There's another one that looks like it came with. We'll get that tightened in. Got that nice and snug. Alright, guys, I got the original chassis back up here, and I think the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take off the ESC. So we have some 2.5mm that hold the ESC on. Alright, and that is off, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to disconnect the motor wire. So if I can get this apart, there we go. There's 1, and there's 2. And now the ESC will just pop off. I do need to get it out from the receiver box, so have to disconnect it from channel 2. Then feed it back through here. And now our ESC is free. We got two 2mm right here and here. There's two. It's like we're gonna have two more 2mm right here and here. There's only 4 screws to hold the back on, so the back is pretty darn simple actually. This does not obviously go like that. So this is obviously going to be sitting on top, so somehow this portion needs to come off. And these are 2.5mm right here. And there's 4. There's 2. Looks like we're gonna have another 2mm right here that's also holding it on. Wow. I was not expecting the screw to be that long of a screw, guys. Now let's see if that then... Okay, there. That answers the question. That then comes apart. And now get the rear bulkhead connected. There's a part that can slide on, but I think in this situation it's going to be easier for me to just push it along like such. I am going to reinstall that 2mm that goes right in here. You guys can't see what I'm doing. I'm just reinstalling that 2mm that I took out that I don't actually think I needed to take out. These 4 that go right in here, those are all the 2.5mm. All right, and then we have these other 2 small ones that are right here and here that then go right here and here. This is a pretty decent sized job, guys, so this does take a bit of time. So if you are going to do this conversion, just keep in mind it takes a little bit of time. I don't know how long I've been at it so far, but you know, you do have to disassemble basically the whole front and rear portion. Take the front and rear bulkheads off and then reinstall them onto the new chassis, and then also switch your receiver box and all your electronics onto the new chassis as well. So there's a fair amount that needs to be changed there. It looks like we have those 2mm that need to go right up here and here. I think what we're going to do now, guys, is we're going to go back to the original chassis. We're going to get this receiver box taken off. So the receiver box is held on with just, looks like 2 2mm, one right here and one right down in that corner right here. Pretty self-explanatory. And then that whole piece comes off, so that's nice. There's 2 little pedestals for it to sit on. And then this just goes just like this, guys. I was looking at what this was. It just occurred to me. I know I was looking at, where did the piece go? This piece right here. I'm like, what's that for? Then I realized it's this piece right here. So this just goes, and this is just going to screw right into here. And let's see what size that is. It's 5.5mm. I'm going to want this off to the side like something like that. There we go. So then our pin will go in from the side right here. Let's see, I'm trying to figure out how am I supposed to route this. It looks like I'm going to put it in through this side over here, if you guys can see. Can you see it poking through? Then run it. I think it's supposed to run up underneath the battery and then go like such. There is a little piece right here, guys, which I don't know if you're going to be able to see. There's a little thing right here. I wonder if the wire is supposed to go up in here. That would make sense. Yep. Doesn't hold it super tight, but that keeps it out of the way of the battery compartment. Okay, and it looks like that's what that piece is for, guys. I was wondering what this piece right here is for, where the actual battery strap or battery tie down actually goes into. You can see there's 2. There's one right here and here that hold on to this one. And I think now all we have to do is put the ESC on. ESC, so let's see if I put those through here. Let's actually get those connected right now. One. Right, got those 2 on. So let's see. Is that as far that's gonna go? I guess it'll have to be this way, guys, because it doesn't look like the ESC is gonna go any further than that. So our ESC is actually starting to pull on these wires a little bit. So I'm gonna mount it this way. And then I think, do we use these 2 or do we need shorter ones now? Looks like we're gonna be using shorter ones, guys. Maybe I should refer back to these instructions. Okay, it does say included. Those are just 2mm heads on those. I don't know if you can see. It's I guess it's not horrible, but it's starting to pull on the motor a little bit. These motor wires, especially this black one coming from the bottom, there's not really much slack. especially since these portions right here that are covered don't want to really slide through this little gap that they have built in right here. And I think just route this ESC wire to the ESC. Looks like okay, there. Got that, and then that right there is going to plug into channel number 2, which is right here. Forgot to put these on, guys. Still need to put these on. Alright, guys, and the chassis is together. And as you guys can see, it looks nice. Low center of gravity. Interesting the way that the steering servo is, and the steering servo is the last thing we're going to have to change. As you guys can see, since it is a Traxxas upgrade part, it does say Traxxas, kind of raised lettering on the bottom of the chassis. I like the blue. The blue color does look nice. It's not going to go great with the red and gray and white body I have, though. Let me get my controller, hook up a 2S LiPo, and see what we need to do to actually change the steering direction. Another thing I did real quick is I just put some tape down just to hold this down. Last thing I did was I put one of these foam pieces. It came with 2 different options. Just used a bit of alcohol, cleaned off the chassis, and put a foam piece just so it'll hold my battery a little bit better. And this battery has still a bunch of movement, but this other block is too thick. It's too big of a block. Right now what I have is I have a 2S LiPo hooked on. I got the ESC on, and as you guys can see, when I steer it, this way is going to the left, this way is going to the right. So it's the opposite of what we want. So it shows on here the directions on how to switch it. Let's see, so there's only a few, like one button on this, so it can't be that difficult. So press and hold set until the green light starts blinking, I guess. There, we got that blinking. So turn steering wheel to full left or full right, and then hold steering wheel in position and press set to reverse steering servo. So I'm going to turn it full. This should be left, I think. And then it just says press set to reverse. And as you guys can see, that was actually really easy. So we got it reversed, guys. I just need to put the receiver box lid back on. But as you guys can see, it's all done. If you guys like this video, make sure to hit that thumbs up button. Also, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so then you'll be notified whenever I come out with new videos. Because you're going to want to continue following this, because obviously in the next video we're going to be testing this out. More upgrades to come in the future, guys. Later.